and it will actually make a difference for you. If it begins to make a difference for you, then it's likely that it's going to create some spark of awareness.
You've tuned to Awareness Addicts with Dr. Gayla Gorman. Here, you'll find sage advice for taking inspired action. Awareness is the key. With this key, it's easier to navigate in the human world with all of its detours. It requires that we get to know ourselves intimately. If you choose to join us, this just might make you an awareness addict. Alive, alert, awake, and aware of life's possibilities.
This is episode 1, and what I'll refer to often as one of the foundational episodes. I'm going to challenge you to think for yourself, to come up with your own opinions and know what works for you. Developing awareness is what's worked for me. In fact, I'm a bit of an awareness addict, and I'm hoping you'll become addicted too. So stick around and get your fix. Well, it's officially winter, the time of year when we reflect on what's been working for us and what hasn't. And we're often feeling motivated to make some changes for the new year, so we're going to help you sort that out. But first, I'm wondering, do you remember James Arthur Ray? Well, he's been in the news again lately. Apparently, he's making a comeback, and he was sent to prison in 2011 for an incident in 2009 where he was leading a group of people through Native American sweat lodge. And the ceremony went very wrong, and he ended up being held responsible for the deaths of 3 people. It was a really horrible tragedy. So it turns out, I was just thinking recently, I wondered what happened to him, and all of a sudden he pops up in the news. And I guess in 2011 he was convicted and ended up spending 2 years, almost 20 months in prison. And so I guess he got out in 2013 or 14, and this year he's been making a comeback. And so the families of the people who died are feeling like he hasn't taken enough responsibility for the accident and what happened. I guess they would consider that it wasn't really an accident, and that in fact, he was responsible. So I just did a little poking around. I was curious, and it turns out that he's done several interviews recently, and he has said that one of the things that he's really been shown is what it means to take personal responsibility. And so we're going to talk a lot about personal responsibility on episodes going forward, and it strikes me as something that we really have to deal with personally. How do you feel about personal responsibility? Do you tend to blame others when something doesn't go right for you? Do you feel like a victim often? And so taking personal responsibilities means that, yes, there are times when we've been taken advantage of by other people and things didn't go our way and they could have gone better for us had somebody not done something or done something differently. We have control oftentimes when we like to think we don't have control. It's easier to say it's out of our control because we don't have to take personal responsibility for it then. So I'm challenging you. I'm not going to talk much about James Arthur Ray. I don't really care one way or the other, but I think it's a good lesson for us to look at it and say, okay, have I taken personal responsibility for something that has gone wrong in my life? And sometimes we don't even take personal responsibility when things go right in our life. So that's a whole topic for another day. But the other question then is, when is it okay to put it behind you? How long do you have to let it hang around and put a restriction on your life if you've done something that you're not proud of or had an experience that you feel like really set you back? So just today, as we develop awareness, just drop that little question in there and say, am I taking personal responsibility? Where am I taking personal responsibility, and where am I not taking personal responsibility, and why? And if there's something that I'm kind of holding myself back because I did something I'm not proud of or whatever, at what point am I going to let myself off the hook so that I can really move forward and create a full and fulfilling life? Let's take a moment to develop awareness. This is something you can practice anywhere, anytime. Begin by noticing where your breath is landing in your body. Are you feeling your breath in your chest? Is it expanding your rib cage or even your belly? Just become aware of your breathing. Now we're going to breathe intentionally. We'll start by breathing deeply into our belly. Breathe deeply, expanding your belly. Notice how it feels for your belly to expand. Then pull your abdomen in so that all of the stale air gets pushed out on the exhale. Let's do that again. Breathe in deeply, all the way into your belly. Expand your belly. And again, breathe out and flatten your tummy. Squeeze all that air out. Next, we'll move the breath up to our rib cage. Intentionally expand your rib cage with the breath. It may feel like your ribs are stretching out on both sides, or you may feel it expanding your back. Just notice how that feels. You're stretching your lungs to the side and creating flexibility in your ribs. Take another breath into your rib cage. Now let's go back to how you were probably breathing when we started this practice. Breathe into your upper chest. You can feel your breastbone raise and lower with the breath. Notice how it feels to take a shallow breath now that we've expanded the breath into our belly and rib cage. We've sent a clear message to our brain and nervous system that we can take control. Let's use this feeling of empowerment to practice aware appreciation. What's one big thing that you appreciate right now? And keep this in mind as you notice more things to appreciate as you move through your day. So are you still scratching your head a bit, wondering what it means to be aware? So today we're going to talk about the difference between knowledge and awareness. Let's just start with knowledge, because this is the thing that I think most of us are pretty comfortable with. We know what knowledge looks like. We've been indoctrinated into the education system from a very early age. And so our brains have had knowledge poured into them nonstop. And so I can remember being in school, and history is just something that I was never much interested in. So any sort of classes that were history related, I did the absolute minimum I had to do, memorize what I had to memorize, and take the test. I was a fairly good student, A-B student. In fact, I graduated high school with, I think I had only gotten one B in all of high school. So I was a pretty good student, obviously pretty good at memorizing. So education, though, when I learned something I wasn't interested in, it didn't stick. I could have, the next week, probably not given you a correct answer to something that I had memorized the week before. So when we're talking about knowledge, we're really talking about that education that comes in and we're absorbing. And if it's resonating with us, if we're interested in it, it gets stored in a way where we often will go back and access it and incorporate it into things that we're doing, other experiences. It will change us going forward. If it doesn't resonate for us, then we'll do what I did with my history lessons, and it'll just kind of go in one ear and out the other. It may pause in between the ears long enough to be able to take a test or something like that, but it's not going to hang out and actually make a difference for you. So the kind of education we're talking about here is books, courses, whether you take those at a school or online, or even, for example, a message at church. This is, I think, a great example. Go to church and listen to a really great message from whoever is speaking. And so we have gone to several churches, and we go really regularly sometimes and not other times, depending on what the situation is. But oftentimes we'd be in what's called fellowship hall after the service and sitting around at a table, and the conversation would turn to some experience that could have easily been altered by applying what was just said in the message just a few minutes previously. And so I think it's fascinating, and was a great example to me of the difference between knowledge and actually integrating it and developing awareness around it. Because until you develop that awareness and you do the integration, it just isn't going to make a difference for you. So that's what we're challenging you to do. I'm going to share with you a lot of information that, if it resonates with you, you will incorporate it into your life to some degree. Hopefully you'll integrate it pretty deeply, and it will actually make a difference for you. If it begins to make a difference for you, then it's likely that it's going to create some spark of awareness. You're going to learn something that you're going to say, oh, wow, that's why that situation happened the way it happened. Or you're going to say, wow, I really could have handled that differently. I see that now, how it was my lack of awareness, knowledge, integrating that knowledge, lack of understanding that caused me to act or react in a certain way. So the awareness is what allows the light bulb to flash and to say, oh, okay, I can do it differently. I can take a different action next time, or even potentially go back and have a redo. Or as we really practice this and build our muscles around our awareness skills, the idea is to close that gap so that we can switch into awareness much more quickly and apply awareness and this understanding before we've got something we regret and have to go back and deal with. One of the things that really helps me to have those sparks that really create a difference is to get away from my normal setting. I often have a real, what I call a creative download whenever I travel, and especially if I have really been able to unplug and am forced to not do the same things I normally do every day. It creates some space in my psyche for other information to come in. So you may not be able to travel, or you may have other challenges that create some blocks for you, but I encourage you to find some way to create that space. That can be going for a walk by yourself. That can be going to a movie. Sometimes seeing a movie for me will really spark some understanding that I was not seeing something that way previously. So you've got to take a little time and develop that relationship with yourself and be willing to spend some time alone and put down the phone, put down the iPad, turn off the computer and the television, and just really reflect. So my takeaway today for you is that we often don't have a new or renewed sense of awareness without introducing some new information into the mix. So without that new knowledge or outside the box experience, we won't have that new spark happen. So it's just important that we give ourselves those kind of experiences and that we get out of our comfort zone.
I am able to stay grounded and aware when I'm just taking care of routine daily activities. However, whenever I'm doing something where there's more at stake, I find it extremely hard to maintain my awareness and confidence. I get flustered and anxious about the outcome. How can I develop the ability to maintain awareness at all times?
So first, thanks for submitting your question, and you're not alone here. Honestly, it's not possible to maintain awareness at all times. Rather, we want to close the gap. When we're engaged in an activity that really matters, there's often a lot of chatter going on in our heads. We're anticipating what could go wrong, what it means for us if it goes really right. The key is to recognize when the chatter is happening. You've got to acknowledge it. And when I say acknowledge it, I don't mean condemn it. I mean just take a curious approach to it. Curiosity looks like, that's interesting. I wonder why I'm thinking that. Why would I have immediately jumped to that conclusion? What possible other outcome could happen as opposed to maybe what I'm already thinking could happen? So once you manage to take some control over the conversation in your head, you're well on your way to reliable awareness. Hope that helps.
Are you ready to create an attitude adjustment? Practicing aware appreciation will make a positive difference. You can access the Aware Appreciation Worksheet by visiting awarenessaddicts.com/AA. In just a few minutes a day, you'll stop negativity in its tracks and gain some insight and awareness in the process. Your feedback makes a difference. What part of this episode helped you the most? Join the Awareness Addicts Facebook group and share your thoughts. Make sure you leave a review wherever you've accessed the show. And if you know others who could use some divine inspiration, share with them. Remember, all the links and resources are available at awarenessaddicts.com/episodes. Don't waste another moment feeling confused and stuck. As an awareness addict, you're alive, alert, awake, and aware of life's possibilities.
If you're feeling stuck or confused, wondering how you'll get the creative juices flowing, you won't want to miss the next episode. It's actually not that difficult if you're willing to set aside a few minutes every day to practice. And I'm going to share with you a practice that works for me and many others. So make sure you join me.
This was Awareness Addicts with Dr. Gayla Gorman. For more information and to find any resources mentioned in this episode, visit awarenessaddicts.com/episodes. Thank you for tuning in.